she teased into the phone. But the voice that came back sounded both angry and upset. Claire. Claire, Evans sat bolt upright in bed. What's wrong? Who upset you? From your tone, I get the feeling you're about to blow up. Olivia Sullivan. After Claire Evans finished her private chat with Olivia Sullivan, she immediately called Jake Wilson. Olivia Sullivan hadn't told Claire about her issues with Michael Thompson directly. She'd vaguely asked for advice on how to persuade a relative's kid who supposedly kept going to places minors weren't allowed. If Michael Thompson had been asked that question, he definitely would have launched into some long-winded answers starting with something like, "Thanks for asking, currently in the U.S., just landed." But Claire Evans' intuition was sharp. As Olivia Sullivan's best friend, she knew Olivia didn't get along well with any of her relatives' kids. Why would she suddenly care about something like this? This had to be about Michael Thompson. Actually, whether it was related or not, calling Jake Wilson to ask couldn't hurt. Jake Wilson had always had a cell phone. His dad, James Wilson, had bought it for him as a reward when he graduated middle school and got into the prestigious Oakwood High School. This had made Michael Thompson jealous for ages, because his dear old mom, Margaret Thompson, refused to buy him one. She said it would distract him from his studies, and he shouldn't even think about phones or computers during high school. Emily Thompson didn't have a phone either, but she was just unlucky, dragged down by Michael. Since they were kids, everything had been kept perfectly even between them. If Michael got a new backpack, she got one too. If Emily got a new toy, Michael got one too. So, since Michael didn't have a phone, neither did she. The computer, though, was something Uncle Ben Thompson and Emily had bought secretly behind Aunt Maggie's back. Just as Jake Wilson was getting ready for bed, he got a call from Claire Evans. Michael Thompson craned his neck curiously, trying to see who was calling, but Jake Wilson quickly hid the phone, glancing guiltily at Michael. Still, in that brief glimpse, Michael had already seen the caller's name. "You still say you have nothing?" It's my grandma's call. I'll take it outside." Jake Wilson stammered out a clumsy lie and walked out onto the balcony with his phone, clearly not wanting Michael Thompson to overhear the conversation. Michael Thompson looked towards the floor-to-ceiling glass doors, watching Jake Wilson talking on the balcony. He usually didn't like meddling in other people's relationships, but this particular pairing, he found it increasingly amusing. Michael Thompson's diplomatic asylum at the Wilson house could only last one night. The next day, Margaret Thompson's urgent summons reached the Wilsons. Even clinging to the Wilsons' pillars wouldn't have helped. He had to obediently go home. On the way home, Michael Thompson and Emily Thompson walked along the edge of Green River. Nearby was Pine Creek Town's elementary school, but it was closed for the holidays, the entire campus silent. Michael Thompson suddenly stopped. Emily Thompson turned back, puzzled, only to see her cousin looking towards the calm Green River with a melancholic gaze, seemingly filled with endless sorrow. He sighed lightly. "This river I shall not cross." Emily Thompson, ? Now I face a wolf ahead and a tiger behind. Crossing this river means entering the dragon's pool, yet stepping back leads to the tiger's den. And this predicament is caused by the two women I love most. Michael Thompson sighed dramatically. "This is the Green River, not the Woo River. You are a stupid dog and not overlord." Emily Thompson looked at him with utter disdain, holding nothing back. "Besides, what two women you love most? Isn't the only woman who loves you your mom?" Michael Thompson couldn't be bothered to argue. He pointed towards the Green River Bridge. "Rather than go home and face humiliation, I might as well sleep under the bridge." Emily Thompson stared at him for a moment, then slowly backed away, nodding slowly. "Well, good luck with that. Shouldn't siblings stick together at a time like this? Who wants to sleep under a bridge with you? You're the one getting beaten, not me. Goodbye, goodbye. My mom called me home for turkey dinner." Emily Thompson, completely heartless, slung her bag over her shoulder and bolted. Before Michael Thompson could even react, she was gone. Michael Thompson squatted by the Green River, watching the water flow east, muttering to himself, "The only plan now is to pit the tiger against the wolf." He pulled his phone from his pocket, dialed a number, cleared his throat twice, and put on an incredibly bright smile. "Hey, Olivia, are you free tonight? I wanted to invite you for turkey dinner." If Olivia Sullivan's mood yesterday was a thunderstorm, today it was a cloudless, sunny sky. She was in such a good mood that she hummed a little tune while picking out her clothes, hummed while taking a bath, and even hummed happily in her chauffeur-driven car after leaving the house. Even the chauffeur, Uncle Wilson, was muttering to himself, wondering if the young miss had been tickled silly or just gone plain daft, giggling like a broody hen in the back seat every so often. To be honest, it was a little creepy. Olivia Sullivan's good mood was mainly due to two things. After calling Claire Evans yesterday to vent a little, she hadn't expected Claire to call back soon after, seemingly casually mentioning Jake Wilson. And speaking of Jake Wilson, Claire had also mentioned his good buddy Michael Thompson. Apparently, they'd been together all day yesterday. Olivia Sullivan then figured out that Michael Thompson had gone to Jake Wilson's house yesterday, and it was at the gaming lounge owned by the Wilson family that he ran into Violet Sullivan. It had all been a misunderstanding. She was definitely annoyed that Violet Sullivan had deliberately said those misleading things to provoke her, but she was also happy it was just a misunderstanding. I really trust Michael Thompson, although I did waver a little bit at the end. Okay, really just a tiny bit. Olivia Sullivan conveniently forgot that her tiny bit of wavering had made her run off to complain to her best friend, albeit very euphemistically. She suddenly thought it would be great if Claire, Evans, and Jake Wilson got together. That way, she'd have another channel to find out what Michael Thompson was up to. But Claire has to actually like him, she thought. I can't just play matchmaker for my own benefit. But in Olivia Sullivan's opinion, it was pretty much a done deal. Otherwise, why would Claire Evans suddenly bring up Jake Wilson to her? Even though Claire hadn't admitted it, it was true that when you like someone, you couldn't help but share it with your best friend, even indirectly. Just like herself, Olivia Sullivan felt her cheeks flush slightly at the thought. But what made her happiest today wasn't clearing up the misunderstanding, but the fact that Michael Thompson had actually taken the initiative to invite her for turkey dinner. Michael Thompson waited downstairs from his apartment, squatting until his calves started to cramp. Just then, Olivia Sullivan called him. Look up. Michael Thompson looked up. Not far away, a car slowly approached and finally stopped right in front of him. The back door opened, and a graceful figure emerged. Olivia Sullivan was wearing a cute A-line dress today, dotted with tiny flowers. Although she wore thick tights underneath, her legs still looked slender and shapely. Her delicate features in this outfit made her look like an adorable doll. She seemed to have deliberately curled her hair. The soft waves framed her face, making it look smaller. Since she was still in high school, she wasn't wearing makeup, just a touch of tinted lip balm, which showed how much she valued this dinner. As Olivia Sullivan walked over, she saw Michael Thompson staring blankly at her and immediately wrinkled her little nose proudly. But then she noticed his gaze quickly drift down to her legs. Her face flushed red, and she reached down to pull her skirt lower, feeling shy and annoyed, yet also a little pleased. Until she heard Michael Thompson's inner thoughts. Ah, short legs. Her bright smile instantly vanished, replaced by a dark expression. Hey, Olivia. Michael Thompson greeted her warmly. Are you always this beautiful, or is it just today? Olivia Sullivan was taken aback for a moment, the slight frown on her face smoothing out. She retorted playfully, Are you always this smooth, or is it just today? Only when I'm happy, I guess, Michael Thompson said with a smile, looking at her. Like whenever I see you, Olivia. Olivia Sullivan blushed, unable to outwit him. She made a small fist and lightly punched his arm. Michael Thompson pointed a finger at her, warning her in mock seriousness. Hey, don't think you can just bully me because you're pretty, have a great figure, big eyes with double eyelids, a nice voice, and you walk gracefully. Smooth talker. Olivia Sullivan pursed her lips, shooting him an annoyed glance. She turned away and started walking towards the car parked by the road, a faint smile playing in her dimples, as if trying not to let Michael Thompson notice. She'd completely forgotten about Michael Thompson teasing her for having short legs. Weren't you going to treat me to a meal? Olivia asked, heading for the car. Get in. Where are we going? Michael Thompson caught her arm and pointed up the hill. Olivia Sullivan looked in the direction he was pointing, then back at Michael Thompson, blinking in confusion. Michael Thompson said, We don't need the car to get to where we're eating. Olivia Sullivan froze for a moment before it finally dawned on her. Isn't that Michael Thompson's house? Her mouth fell slightly open, and she stood dumbfounded for a moment before suddenly turning back towards the car. I just remembered I have something to do. Let's do dinner another time. Michael Thompson grabbed her wrist. You're already here, don't rush off. Just stay for a casual meal. No. Olivia Sullivan felt like she couldn't control her mouth, stuttering badly and struggling to get the words out. This. Does this count as meeting the parents? But she and Michael Thompson haven't even started anything serious yet. This is way too fast. And the first visit is supposed to be important. What should I do? Is my hair messy? Should I have worn something more mature? Is this outfit too childish? Gifts. I didn't even buy gifts for his parents. Olivia Sullivan's mind felt overloaded, practically turning to mush, and she felt dizzy. Who invites a girl over to meet their parents the first time they ask her out to eat? And without any warning. I wasn't prepared at all. Feeling both angry and anxious, Olivia Sullivan stomped her foot. Why didn't you tell me beforehand we were eating at your house? Hey, relax, Michael said. My family is really easygoing. Just make yourself at home. Olivia Sullivan bit her lip. Make myself at home? Seriously? She mumbled aloud. Even if you say that. Just do me a favor, please. Grace us with your presence for a meal. Michael pleaded playfully. But, after Michael Thompson's coaxing and cajoling, Olivia Sullivan, hesitant but not entirely unwilling, let him lead her by the hand towards the Thompson house. This was Olivia Sullivan's first time actually visiting the Thompson house. Although she had driven Michael Thompson home a few times before, she had always dropped him off at the bottom of the hill and never come all the way up. She followed behind Michael Thompson, carefully walking up the granite steps. A few pear trees lined the path, but they looked bare and stark in the middle of winter. Next to the Thompson house was a church, where an old man was lazily basking in the sun. Mr. Sunday, Michael Thompson greeted him. He explained quietly to Olivia, around Pine Ridge County, they sometimes call the church the Sunday Chapel, so ever since I was a kid, I called the old man who looks after it Mr. Sunday. The old man saw Michael, then glanced at Olivia beside him. He chuckled and pulled 2 pieces of fruit hard candy from his pocket. Having lost most of his teeth, his speech was a bit unclear as he offered, Have candy. Mr. Sunday, I'm a bit old for this now. Michael Thompson chuckled resignedly, but he accepted the candies anyway, handing one to Olivia Sullivan. After Olivia Sullivan politely greeted the old man, she asked Michael quietly, Is that your grandfather? No, he just looks after the church, Michael Thompson said, leading her towards his house and explaining as they walked. When Jake Wilson and I were kids, back when we were neighbors, we loved playing here. Mr. Sunday really likes kids, so he'd always give us candy and cookies. In the summer, he'd share watermelon and popsicles. You know those sugary ice pops that used to cost a quarter? Ever had one? Olivia Sullivan, sucking on her hard candy, shook her head. Oh man, those were my absolute favorite back then, Michael said, reminiscing. I'd always suck all the sweet syrup out right away, leaving just the ice, and then I'd trick Jake Wilson into trading his popsicle with me. Michael Thompson chuckled, telling the childhood anecdote. Olivia Sullivan covered her mouth, laughing, her eyes curving into beautiful crescents. Were you always such a little troublemaker? Hey, kids don't mean any harm, Michael retorted defensively. That's just childhood innocence. Or mischief. As they spoke, they reached the gate to the Thompson house. Before they went into the yard, Michael Thompson's expression suddenly turned serious. Olivia, he said, I need to ask you a favor. Seeing his serious expression, Olivia Sullivan felt a knot form in her stomach. She nodded immediately. What is it? In a minute, when you're in front of my mom, Margaret Thompson, remember to say some nice things about me, okay? Olivia Sullivan stared at him, utterly confused. Wait, what? Shouldn't you be saying nice things about me to your mom? Whose mother is she? Yours or mine? Michael Thompson pushed open the courtyard gate and had just stepped inside when he saw his mom, Margaret Thompson, sitting in the yard with several aunts and uncles. They were enjoying the sun, shelling beans, and chatting idly. Well, hello there. Everyone's home, Michael called out casually. Margaret Thompson saw her son sauntering in with a grin and immediately grabbed the switch she'd clearly prepared just for him. You rotten kid. Finally decided to come home, did you? Weren't you planning on sleeping under a bridge? Clearly, Emily Thompson had come home and promptly thrown Michael under the bus. Margaret Thompson already knew about Michael's final exam results from Emily Thompson, and she was genuinely furious. That switch had Michael's name written all over it. But as she advanced menacingly towards Michael, switch in hand, she caught sight of Olivia Sullivan standing just behind him, partially hidden. Margaret Thompson instantly hid the switch behind her back, her expression shifting to an awkward but polite smile. Michael, she said, is this your classmate? Nervous and flustered, Olivia Sullivan gave a quick, deep bow. Hello, Aunt Maggie. Michael Thompson jumped in with a grin. Mom, I left my winter break homework at school, and my classmate here brought it over for me. I figured, since it's almost dinner time, the least we could do is ask her to stay and eat, right? Wouldn't want people thinking the Thompsons are stingy. Margaret Thompson stammered slightly. Oh, why yes, of course. We absolutely must have her stay for dinner. Come, dear, please come in. For the moment, she completely forgot about settling the score with Michael and warmly ushered Olivia Sullivan inside. Michael Thompson smirked inwardly. He knew his mom's personality perfectly well. If he caught her while she was fuming, he'd definitely be in for it. But introducing a bigger distraction like a guest would usually make her forget her anger, or at least postpone the lecture. Besides, Margaret Thompson was naturally hospitable and genuinely enjoyed having guests over. And in front of her son's classmate, she would certainly want to maintain appearances. Also, even though Michael Thompson knew the timing wasn't ideal, a part of him genuinely wanted to introduce Olivia Sullivan to his family, even if it was just under the guise of being classmates. In his previous life, Michael Thompson had visited the Sullivan family, but he had never brought Olivia Sullivan to the Thompson family's old home. After the family split up the households, no one lived in the old house anymore, except for Margaret Thompson, who refused to leave. Since it hadn't been occupied for a long time, many parts of the house had become moldy and dusty. Michael Thompson didn't want Margaret Thompson to go through the trouble of cleaning the place just for a 2-day visit. So whenever he brought Olivia Sullivan back to Green Valley, he always picked Margaret Thompson up and took her into the city. He had already bought an apartment there by then. He basically only came back around Christmas each year. And sometimes, when work was busy, he couldn't even make it back then. Olivia Sullivan had never met his father and barely knew anyone else in the Thompson family. Not properly introducing his wife to his family had always been a small thorn in Michael Thompson's side. Whenever the thought surfaced, he felt a pang of regret. So, in this life, he was determined to introduce Olivia Sullivan properly to his family. Smiling, Michael Thompson followed Margaret Thompson and Olivia Sullivan into the house. Margaret Thompson politely brought Olivia Sullivan a cup of tea. "Why don't you sit here and watch some TV, dear? Aunt Maggie will go cut up some fruit for you." Olivia Sullivan wanted to say, "Aunt Maggie, you really don't have to go to any trouble," but she was too nervous to speak, managing only a pleading look towards Michael Thompson. Michael Thompson immediately gave her an "I understand" look, signaling her to relax with his eyes, then said cheerfully, "Mom, cut some apples." "Oh, does a young lady like apples?" "No, she doesn't. Your darling son does." Margaret Thompson felt like smacking her foolish son on the forehead. She glared at him. "Did I forget to give you hands when you were born? Get in the kitchen and cut them yourself." Michael Thompson had no choice but to go help in the kitchen. As soon as he entered, Margaret Thompson grabbed him and whispered urgently, "Didn't I tell you no dating in high school? And now you're bringing a girl home? You're getting awfully bold." Michael Thompson pleaded innocence. "Honestly, Mom, we're just classmates, purely platonic. Your old mom has sharp eyes. You think I can't tell? This girl is so pretty, and she looks so well-behaved." As she spoke, she subconsciously glanced towards the living room. "It's just, she's a little petite. Might have trouble with childbearing." Michael Thompson leaned closer, grinning. "So, Mom, you're quite pleased, huh? If I were her mother, I certainly wouldn't think you were good enough for her." "Mom, am I really your son? With that rotten temper of yours, if you weren't my son, I'd have beaten you senseless long ago. Wouldn't you agree? Wow, you really love me, huh?" Michael Thompson endured quite a bit of his mother's teasing. He turned serious. "But Mom, Olivia Sullivan and I really are just regular classmates. Please don't say anything inappropriate in front of her. Also, let me tell you something. I basically had to drag Olivia here. Her family situation, it's complicated." He didn't go into detail about the Sullivan family with his mom, just embellished stories about the unfair treatment Olivia supposedly received. Hearing this, Margaret Thompson immediately slammed her hand on the cutting board, furious. What century are we living in? How can I still be favoring sons over daughters like that? She's their own flesh and blood. How can I not care? Michael Thompson nodded vigorously. "Yeah, and tonight she'll probably just get leftovers when she goes home. It's so pitiful. So, since she came over to drop off homework today, I invited her to stay for a meal." This was a lie. Olivia Sullivan did have a hard time in the Sullivan family, but that was only after Arthur Sullivan passed away. Right now, the old man was alive and well, keeping the troublemakers in the Sullivan family in check, so Olivia's life wasn't that difficult yet. Besides, she was still a young lady of the Sullivan family. The idea of her eating leftovers was pure nonsense. But Margaret Thompson didn't know that. She actually believed Michael Thompson's tall tale, her gaze towards Olivia filling with sympathy. "That poor child has such a hard life. Mom, please don't say things like that in front of her." Michael Thompson, afraid his lie would be exposed, quickly warned her. "And don't bring up her family situation. I know you like to stand up for the underdog, but kids from families like that are often fragile inside. So please be careful." "Go on," Margaret Thompson said irritably. "Your mother's eaten more salt than you've walked miles. You think I don't understand something so simple?" She handed him the prepared fruit platter. "Take this fruit out to your classmate. It's fine having her over, but you could have at least called ahead. Where am I supposed to get decent ingredients this late in the morning? Just whip up whatever's easy. That won't do at all. The young lady, right? If she's eating at our house, she deserves a proper meal." Margaret Thompson thought for a moment, then said, "You figure out a way to keep her here for dinner tonight, too. After lunch, I'll go buy some groceries, and we'll have a nice spread tonight. Michael Thompson snapped to attention and saluted. Mission accepted. Preoccupied with Olivia Sullivan, Margaret Thompson completely forgot about Michael Thompson bombing his exams. Olivia Sullivan sat stiffly in the living room, constantly sipping water. She was incredibly nervous. Since stepping into the Thompson house, she hadn't dared to lift her head, not even managing to sneak a proper look around. To ease her anxiety, she just kept drinking water. Michael Thompson came from the kitchen with the fruit platter, sat down beside Olivia Sullivan, and placed it on the coffee table. Olivia, have some fruit. Why you and Aunt Maggie were in the kitchen for so long? What are you talking about? Olivia looked uneasy, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, thumbs fidgeting against each other. She had a feeling they had been talking about her, and it made her worried. My mom said she's never seen such a pretty girl, thought a fairy had descended to earth, Michael Thompson said with a smile. And she also said you look really sweet, it's just. Olivia had been listening with slightly narrowed, pleased eyes, but hearing the "it's just," she immediately looked up. Just what? It's just that she might not be good for childbearing. Michael Thompson couldn't possibly say that out loud, of course. It was just a thought. But his gaze unconsciously flickered towards Olivia Sullivan's flat chest. True, after Lucas was born, if I hadn't stepped in, she barely would have been able to nurse him enough. Mom's intuition is scarily sharp. Olivia Sullivan's ear tips turned bright red, color flooding her cheeks. She immediately crossed her arms over her chest and muttered softly, "Pervert." If they weren't at Michael Thompson's house right now, she wouldn't have let him off with just a soft mutter. This guy always knew how to say something nice, only to follow it up with a sting. She almost regretted being able to hear Michael Thompson's thoughts. It was infuriating. Michael Thompson, thinking she had caught his stray glance, felt instantly awkward. He quickly looked away, pretending to focus on the TV, mumbling, "This show isn't very good. Let's change the channel." Olivia Sullivan didn't say anything, just lightly kicked Michael Thompson's leg to express her current anger. After Margaret Thompson took the two kids inside, Aunt Daisy and Aunt Rose started whispering outside. Aunt Daisy glanced towards Uncle Ben Thompson's place, lowered her voice, and said, "Well, that boy Michael, he's always been bold ever since he was little." Aunt Rose agreed. "Tell me about it. He's in high school. How can he be dating already? And bringing girls home? Shouldn't we go over to Aunt Maggie's place and check on things? Make sure she doesn't hurt the boy." Aunt Daisy had a mischievous idea. She just wanted to pop over to Michael's place and get a look at her potential future niece-in-law. Whether she actually was one didn't matter. Anyway, from the quick glimpse Daisy had caught, the girl was gorgeous, like a fairy right out of painting. Aunt Rose caught on instantly. "Honestly, Michael," she said right away, "bringing someone home on such short notice? How could Aunt Maggie possibly have a turkey dinner ready? Look, why don't we pitch in? We can each make a specialty dish and bring it over. Coincidentally, my brother gave me some lamb recently. I'll go stew that. We can head over to Aunt Maggie's soon." Okay, sounds good. With the plan decided, they both got up and headed back to their own places. Over at the Thompson house, Margaret Thompson was bustling about. One minute she was on the phone telling Robert Thompson, still at his workshop, not to forget some cold side dishes on his way home. The next, she was rushing between the kitchen and the living room, then dashing outside again. When she came back, she was carrying an old hen and hurried back into the kitchen. Apparently, she'd gone next door to borrow a free-range chicken. Usually, Margaret Thompson would have Michael helping her out by now, but today she didn't ask. She probably figured that since it was his classmate's first visit, the guest would be left alone with no one to talk to if Michael went to the kitchen. As for Michael Thompson, he was keeping Olivia Sullivan company. But before he could exchange more than a few words with her, a little boy ran in from outside. He wasn't tall, was skinny as a rail, and looked a bit like a little monkey. It was one of his cousins, Liam Thompson, who was just elementary school age. The little boy wasn't shy around strangers. Grinning, he leaned over the armrest of the sofa and stared intently at Olivia Sullivan for quite a while. Olivia Sullivan began to feel awkward under his stare and glanced helplessly at Michael Thompson. But before Michael Thompson could shoo him away, Liam Thompson piped up cheerfully, "Michael, this girl is prettier than the last one you brought home." Olivia Sullivan blinked, stunned. Wasn't she the first girl Michael had brought home? What was going on? He brought other girls home before? Michael Thompson was dumbfounded too. What was he talking about, bringing another girl home? Man, this kid, was he trying to get himself killed? Michael felt a sudden chill, noticing the temperature beside him, where Olivia sat, seemed to plummet. He jumped up, whacked Liam on the head, and snapped, "When did I ever bring a girl home? Liam Thompson, are you itching for a spanking?" Liam Thompson clutched his head, looking deeply wronged. "But you did. Just last week, you brought someone home." That was the water meter reader. She was in her 30s. You little troublemaker. Michael grabbed Liam, pushed him onto his lap, gave his bottom a couple of quick smacks, and then flicked his forehead. Scram! Clutching his bottom, eyes welling up with tears, Liam stuck his lower lip out dramatically, looking utterly miserable. Michael's bullying me. I'm telling Aunt Maggie. Michael raised his hand threateningly, which sent Liam wailing and bolting off to tattle to Margaret Thompson. Only then did he turn back to Olivia Sullivan, looking rather awkward. He gave a sheepish smile. Sorry you had to see that. Olivia Sullivan watched him, covering her mouth to stifle a laugh. She had been nervous when she first arrived at the Thompson house, but she was gradually starting to relax. Now, she finally had a chance to really look around Michael's home. The Thompsons had built the house themselves, and whatever else you could say about it, it was certainly spacious. The first floor was divided into a kitchen, dining room, and living room. Between the dining and living areas, directly across from the entryway, a staircase led upstairs, with a small storage closet tucked underneath. The living room contained the usual furniture: sofa, coffee table, TV, air conditioner. A few potted pines stood near the wall. It wasn't luxurious, but it felt comfortable and warmly lived in. So this is where Michael grew up? The thought made Olivia Sullivan feel a growing affection for the house. Everything about it seemed pleasant. She glanced at Michael, who was now playing with a dog. It wasn't a purebred or anything fancy, just a mutt, but it looked quite cute. The dog was lying belly up on the floor, panting softly. Michael had taken his shoes off and was gently resting his bare feet on its stomach, using it as a sort of footrest. The mutt kept twisting its head, trying to playfully nip at Michael's big toe. Olivia loved animals and wanted to play with the dog too, but she was too shy to ask. Michael glanced over, instantly reading her mind. He nudged the dog's backside with his foot, coaxing him up. Buddy, go on, go suck up to the young lady. The dog was surprisingly obedient and trotted right over to Olivia. She cautiously reached out to pet him. Buddy lifted his head and gently licked her palm, making her giggle. What's his name? She asked Michael. Buddy, he replied. Seeing her somewhat speechless expression, he grinned. Yeah, we're pretty simple with names around here. I actually want to call him Damn Dog, but Mom shot that down. Olivia suddenly remembered Michael had nicknamed her own family's dog, Lucas, Lord Doggy. His naming skills were certainly unique. While the two were busy playing with the dog and chatting quietly, Margaret Thompson emerged from the kitchen carrying a large bowl piled high with chicken. Son, your dad's going to be a bit longer, she announced. Why don't the three of us go ahead and eat? Don't want your friend here getting hungry. Olivia quickly stood up. Aunt Maggie, I'm fine, really. We can wait for Uncle. Oh, nonsense. It's fine, let's eat first. Come on over and sit down. Margaret Thompson waved them casually toward the dining table before disappearing back into the kitchen. I'm just going to make a couple more things. You start eating now. Make yourself right at home. Robert Thompson arrived home shortly after, carrying about 2 pounds of crawfish and a crucian carp. These weren't market-bought crawfish. He caught them himself down at the Green River. As soon as he'd gotten Margaret's call saying Michael had brought a friend home, he'd rushed down to the riverbank to check his traps, hoping to bring back a little something extra for the meal. Robert Thompson really only had 2 hobbies, tending his plants and fishing. But it was already January, well past crawfish season. He must have gotten this many by asking some fishing buddies to share their catch, a sign of how much effort he was making for the guest. The Thompson family's hospitality was clear to see. Once Robert Thompson arrived home, the family was finally all together, and they sat down for lunch. Although Margaret had claimed it was just a casual lunch, she had clearly gone to great lengths. There was stewed chicken, deep-fried crawfish, clam chowder, stir-fried cabbage with vinegar, and even some home-cured smoked meat. It was quite an impressive spread. But before the family could even start eating, heads kept popping in at the door. Oh, Aunt Maggie, you're eating? I saw you had company, and I happened to make some barbecue ribs with vegetables, so I brought some over. Aunt Daisy came in carrying a plate of barbecue ribs with vegetables, and Margaret Thompson quickly stood up. Why be so formal? Have you eaten? If not, come join us. Bring your husband too. Aunt Rose did the same, showing up with a pot of lamb stew that wasn't even fully tender yet. Before they knew it, it had turned into a big potluck for the Thompson family. Eventually, the small table couldn't fit everyone, so Margaret Thompson had Robert Thompson and Michael Thompson, father and son, bring out the big, round table with the lazy Susan they used for Christmas. Then she went back inside with the 2 aunts to make a few more dishes. Anyone passing by might have thought the Thompsons were celebrating Christmas early. Olivia Sullivan found herself swept up into the Thompson family meal, a bit bewildered. Looking at the table full of Thompsons, she felt a little confused for a moment. Why, such a huge gathering? She had thought it was just going to be a simple meal with Michael Thompson's parents. But once she sat down, she quickly realized the atmosphere at the Thompson table was completely different from the Sullivan families. The Sullivans were proper and formal, with many rules. Seating arrangements mattered, and talking during meals was frowned upon. The family members only put effort into maintaining a facade of peace in front of Arthur Sullivan. But behind his back, they practically wished they never had to see their siblings again. How could the atmosphere be good when people like that ate together every day? Looking at the Thompsons, also a large family eating together, there weren't nearly as many formalities. People sat wherever they wanted and chatted casually during the meal, gossiping about this and that. Occasionally, a disobedient child would refuse to eat, and an adult would chase them around the room, bowl in one hand and a switch in the other. It looked chaotic, but Olivia Sullivan found it heartwarming. She felt a little envious. In this atmosphere, Olivia Sullivan unknowingly started to relax. Plus, with Michael Thompson sitting beside her and able to chat with her, she didn't feel out of place. Margaret Thompson took special care of her, putting a chicken leg on her plate. "Dear, eat up, eat up. You're much too thin." "Thank you, Aunt Maggie." Olivia Sullivan smiled sweetly, lowering her head to nibble delicately on the chicken leg. Margaret Thompson's cooking wasn't exactly gourmet, just average home cooking, but she excelled at stews. Whether it was chicken, pork, or barbecue ribs, they were all fantastic. Of course, it couldn't compare to the chef the Sullivans hired from a fancy hotel. But Olivia Sullivan enjoyed it thoroughly. She usually had a small appetite. A small bowl of rice and a couple of bites of vegetables were typically enough for her. But today, for some reason, her appetite seemed to have suddenly improved. Margaret Thompson chatted with her, and as Olivia Sullivan relaxed, she started talking more. Because her son had given her a heads up, Margaret Thompson avoided